Revealed, my incredible journey of leaving home after my daughter-in-law's unexpected pregnancy. Jack's heart raced that autumn afternoon. The sun dipped low, washing the small Midwestern town in golden light. He could smell the fresh-cooked hot dogs and hear laughter that drifted over from the annual harvest festival. Kyle, his only son, stood before him, nervous excitement sparkling in his blue eyes, sharing the news that would change everything. "Dad, Liz and I are expecting a baby." The joy radiated from Kyle, but Jack felt it like a weight on his chest that he looked at Liz, beautiful and youthful, but still just a kid herself. How could they be ready for such a monumental journey? The chaos of her laughter sliced through his thoughts, a reminder that life was often unpredictable. Jack's mind swirled with worries about their future, jobs, and the struggles of raising a child in a town where responsibilities loomed larger than dreams. In that small kitchen, surrounded by remnants of an average dinner, an ordinary conversation spiraled into something far more complex. As the news settled, Jack's overwhelming concern began to douse the spark of excitement bubbling between the two. The voices of the wider world grew louder, the judgment that came with young parenthood in a small town, the backhanded glances of neighbors who had raised families of their own. Would they be judged? Would Kyle abandon his own dreams? As autumn leaves danced outside, Jack sneaked away into the shadows of his home, caught between wanting to shield his son and the fear of losing him at the same time. The love he felt morphed into a swell of apprehension that tangled his stomach in knots. He tried to guide Kyle, but his words felt stiff, heavy, even clumsy. Liz, feeling the weight of Jack's gaze, withdrew further, an invisible rift widening between them. At the harvest festival, the air crackled with energy. Old friends, bustling families, the warmth of community, yet a storm brewed within Jack. It was then, in a clash of words and emotions, that they stood face to face with all unspoken fears. Liz, eyes glistening with hurt, challenged Jack, words flying like arrows, each one piercing deeper, revealing a tough truth he had tried to ignore. He was stuck, unwilling to let go of the past, while they were all hurtling toward a new future that he couldn't control. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue with the festival fizzing around them. Jack was struck by a realization: their world was shifting, not breaking. He saw the need for change, not just for his son but for himself. The foundation of love could remain strong even if the walls needed repair. It was time to figure out how to embrace this new chapter, to accept Liz, to be there for Kyle, to redefine what family meant. As he watched sparks fly from the distant bonfire, uncertainty hung in the air like the crisp autumn breeze. Would he muster the courage to bridge the widening gap? Or would he allow his fears to chain him? The answers were as elusive as the flitting leaves, each one a reminder that real love was sometimes the hardest to navigate, glowing brightly amid the shadows of doubt. The journey was just beginning, but could Jack learn to stand strong without losing himself? The festival lights twinkled like stars against the darkening sky, yet Jack felt a heaviness settle in his chest. Everywhere he looked, families rejoiced in the simple pleasures of life: cotton candy, games, and the joy of shared laughter. But for Jack, happiness felt distant, buried under the weight of impending change. He knew he needed to talk to Kyle and Liz, but the words felt stuck in his throat. Every time he thought about confronting the reality, a knot in his stomach tightened further. Would they resent him for his apprehension? Would he lose their respect if he expressed his fears too openly? The laughter of children echoed around him, mingling with the vibrant sounds of the festival. Amidst it all, he spotted a small family, a father lifting his daughter high above his head, her giggles ringing out pure and untainted. It struck something deep inside Jack, an ache for the father he wished he could have been, but had been too busy caught up in his own life's whirlwind. With his heart racing, he wandered over to where Kyle and Liz stood by a booth, both engrossed in picking out a pumpkin for their soon-to-arrive bundle of joy. Kyle's hands reached out, brushing against Liz's, and Jack felt a pang. They were so young. So innocent. How could they possibly be prepared for the realities of parenthood? Guys? Jack finally called out, forcing himself to approach. The duo turned, their smiles lighting up the dimming surroundings but quickly fading as they sensed something was off. "Hey, Dad. Look at this one," Kyle said, holding up a small pumpkin with a crooked stem. It looked like a reflection of Kyle's own life, beautifully imperfect. "It's great, son," Jack said, trying to muster some enthusiasm. But the words felt hollow. "Can we talk for a minute?" Just then, Liz's gaze shifted. She looked hesitant. "Is everything okay?" Her voice was soft, laced with concern. Jack took a deep breath, the cool evening air sharpening his thoughts. I want to understand. You both are excited, but I worry that you don't really know what you're stepping into." "Dad, we do know," Kyle replied firmly, his youthful confidence evident. "We have plans, jobs lined up. We're ready for this." "Ready?" Jack echoed, the weight of determination in Kyle's voice cutting through him like a knife. "What does ready even mean?" "This isn't just about you two, it's a child's life we're talking about." Liz stepped closer to Kyle, linking their arms. "And we want you to be part of it, Jack. We're not asking you to have all the answers, just your support." In that moment, Jack finally let his guard down. "I feel lost," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to see either of you struggle. And I'm scared I'll mess things up." Kyle's eyes softened, and he exchanged a glance with Liz. "You're not going to mess anything up, Dad. We need you in our corner, not in the shadows." Jack blinked against the sudden surge of emotion. Rather than feeling isolated, he knew he had a choice: embrace this messy new journey or let it pull them apart. He nodded slowly, and for the first time, a tremor of hope found its way into his heart. The fear might not disappear overnight, but he could learn to pivot and accept change. They could build something new, together. A sudden cheer erupted from a nearby carnival game, funny hats bobbing as people celebrated a prize won. It was just a light-hearted moment, but it brought a warmth to the chill in the air, and Jack realized laughter could be a foundation, too. As he watched Kyle and Liz sharing a laugh, a thought crept into his mind: how would it feel to embrace this journey with an open heart? To reconnect with what family meant, without the shadows of fear looming. But just then, the air shifted again, touched by something deeper, something he hadn't foreseen. A woman approached with an unexpected urgency in her eyes, calling out for Kyle, her voice tinged with distress. Jack's heart dropped. What could possibly be happening now? He put a hand on Kyle's shoulder, a silent plea to stay together. Because it seemed this festival evening had far more in store than just pumpkins and laughter. The woman's voice cut through the festive atmosphere like a sudden storm. "Kyle. Kyle, please." Jack felt the tension in the air. Kyle's face turned serious, and the warmth that had surrounded them just moments before dissipated like a whisper in the wind. "What's wrong?" he called out, stepping away from Jack and Liz. The woman rushed closer, her hands trembling. "It's your mom, Kyle. She had a fall at the store. We're on our way to the hospital now." Kyle's face blanched as he absorbed the news, and Jack's heart raced. All the possibility of a new beginning, all the hope he had just begun to feel, was suddenly overshadowed by panic. "I'll drive," Jack said quickly, his instincts kicking in. He felt Kyle's tension merge with his own as they turned to Liz, whose expression mirrored their fear. "Let us go," Liz urged, her eyes filling with tears, but Jack nodded with determination, steering the way forward. They rushed through the festival, past the laughter and lights, the cheerful music fading into the background. Jack could almost hear the frantic rhythm of his heart mingling with the hurried footsteps echoing in his mind. Once they reached the car, Jack's hands shook as he fumbled with the keys. He glanced at Kyle, the boy appeared swallowed by a whirlwind of emotions. "Come on, Kyle," Jack encouraged, stepping into the role he had forgotten he could still play, a source of strength. Breathe. We'll figure this out. With every passing second, his sense of urgency grew. He ignited the engine, the growl of the car breaking through the silence. He pulled out of the parking lot, navigating the streets as Kyle sat in the back seat, his face taut with worry. "Do you know what happened?" Jack asked, trying to draw his son out of the spiral of panic he could see in his eyes. "She was getting some groceries slipped in the produce section," Kyle said, his voice shaky. "I should be been there." "No, you couldn't have seen this coming." Jack's voice was firm but also soothing. "We're on our way now, and we'll handle it. Just focus on her." As they raced through the streets, Jack felt those old familiar fears clawing at him. The fear of being too late. The fear of losing someone to circumstances beyond his control. Could he truly claim to have moved forward with his life when every twist in the road still felt so uncertain? Liz's hand grasped his shoulder from the back seat. "She'll be okay, right?" "She has to be," she said, her voice trembling. Jack turned to her briefly, meeting her gaze in the rearview mirror. "We have to believe she will be. We can't give in to fear, that's not what she needs." A few minutes later, they approached the hospital. The building loomed ahead, bright and cold against the night. Jack parked quickly, his heart pounding as they rushed inside. The waiting room buzzed with anxious families and worried faces, but Jack's focus was trained on Kyle. His son looked lost, revealing just how much his parents had meant to him all this time. Jack placed a steadying hand on Kyle's back, trying to offer some comfort. "We're here together, remember?" He reminded him softly. As they checked in, a nurse emerged, calling Kyle's name. "You can see your mother now." Jack's heart dropped again. This was a turning point. Would they find a reason to rejoice, or would this unravel every delicate thread they had been weaving together? The three of them moved as one, their fear mingling with hope, each step forward a testament to the love that had brought them to this moment. The uncertainty of parenthood wasn't the only challenge ahead. The strength of family would be tested now more than ever. As they reached the door to the room, Jack paused, inhaling deeply, preparing himself for whatever lay beyond. Although fear still sat heavy in his chest, he knew he needed to be a pillar for Kyle and Liz. Just when he thought they might begin anew, life had thrown an unexpected wrench into their plans. What awaited them behind that door could change everything, and within the uncertainty, one question stirred in Jack's mind: how far would he really go to hold on to the family he feared losing? Kyle pushed the door open just a fraction, peeking inside the hospital room. Jack felt his heart race as he stood beside him, unsure what to expect. The bright overhead lights flooded the room, casting a sterile glow over everything. "Mom." Kyle's voice was a whisper, thick with worry. Jack followed him inside. The sight before them was overwhelming. There lay Kyle's mother, pale and fragile against the stark white sheets, her left arm bandaged and propped against a pillow. She looked so vulnerable. Jack felt a wave of sadness wash over him. This was not how he wanted Kyle to see her. As they stepped further in, the nurse who had called them lingered near the bed. "She's stable now," the nurse said gently. Jack could see the relief flicker across Kyle's face, but it was mixed with anxiety. "Just a minor concussion and some bruises. We'll keep her for observation." Kyle approached his mother's bedside, his breath steadying as he searched her face for any sign of recovery. "I'm so sorry, Mom." His voice quivered, full of regret. Jack couldn't help but step back, allowing Kyle a moment alone with her. He felt protective, yet he knew this was a moment for Kyle, a moment to face his fears head-on. There was a flicker of something, a bond stronger than any uncertainty separating them all. "Hey, sweetheart," she murmured, opening her eyes slowly. The smile she offered was weak but genuine, chasing away the shadows from Kyle's face. "You don't have to worry. I'm tougher than I look." Liz stood beside Jack, her eyes filled with tears as she watched the scene unfold. "She'll be okay, right?" she said softly. Jack nodded, even as his heart pounded with an unspoken hope. This was a chance for their family, a chance for healing. As Kyle held his mother's hand, Jack felt a wave wash over him, a surge of realization. The trials they faced were only weathering them, but they had the strength to rebuild and move through this together one step at a time. Yet despite the moment of relief, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was brewing beneath the surface. As he watched Kyle comfort his mother, a thought nagged at him. Would this event pull them closer, or plunge them deeper into turmoil? The room felt charged with unspoken fears and hidden truths. Kyle's childhood years had been a mix of love and struggle, and this incident brought about a reckoning. He could feel it. It was a reminder that life could change in an instant, forcing them to confront not just physical injuries but emotional ones as well. Jack looked at Liz, who returned his gaze with a knowing expression. They would have to figure out how to navigate the aftermath, the bonds that tied them together now frayed and needing attention, just like his mother's injury. As the nurse prepared to leave, she paused, looking between the three of them. She'll need your support to recover, not just physically, but emotionally too. It can be a long road ahead. Jack swallowed hard. The very real implications of her words weighed on him. He had spent so long trying to mend his relationship with Kyle, trying to become a better father. What if this event opened old wounds instead? With the echoes of the nurse's caution ringing in his mind, Jack made a silent vow. He needed to be present for Kyle and his mother every step of the way. Somehow, through the turmoil, they would find their way back to healing, to hope. But just as a flicker of optimism began to illuminate the shadows in Jack's heart, he heard a startled gasp from Kyle. What do you mean you forgot to tell me something, Mom? The question hung heavy in the air, thickening the tension as Jack's heart raced again. What had she been hiding? The path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty, and Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge was just beginning. Kyle's eyes widened, searching his mother's face as if trying to decipher a code written in the lines of worry etched across her brow. What is it, Mom? He pressed, a tremor of urgency creeping into his voice. Jack held his breath, the air thick between them. He could see the brief flicker of hesitation in her eyes. She was clearly battling some internal storm, struggling to decide what could be shared and what should remain buried. The moment felt frozen, every heartbeat echoing his own anxiety. Liz shifted beside him, a hand pressed against her mouth, sharing in the tension. I was going to tell you both something important, she finally said, her voice a low murmur. The weight of her words felt heavy, as if she were about to unveil a family secret that could shake the very foundation of their lives. Something about your father. Kyle stiffened, the blood draining from his face. What about Dad? It's not what you think. He's fine. She winced slightly, pulling the blanket closer to her body as if to shield herself from the gravity of their conversation. He wants to reach out to you. The silence after her words felt monumental. Jack could see the conflict on Kyle's face, an amalgamation of confusion, anger, and a deep-rooted sadness. Memories flashed through Jack's mind, the arguments, the distance they'd all kept since the fallout. He felt the tension coil within himself. Would this rekindle painful feelings or allow some closure? Why didn't you tell me this before? Kyle's voice cut through the silence, rough and raw. After everything? He's been trying to change, she whispered, visibly shaky. I thought it would be better if you decided for yourself, when you were ready. Jack's heart sank further. He realized that this revelation could shatter the fragile peace they had fought so hard to build. The shaky ground they stood on was about to quake beneath them. Yes, my dad, Mom. Kyle's voice rose, filled with hurt. He just left us. I don't care if he wants to change. That doesn't change what he did. I know, she said softly, tears brimming in her eyes. But you should at least hear him out. Kyle shook his head in disbelief, turning away in frustration. Jack felt helpless, caught between the surface of his own despair and the turmoil swirling around them. Let me be clear, Kyle continued, his voice trembling with fury. I don't need him. I've managed just fine without him. Then why does it hurt so much? Jack found himself thinking. He cast a sideways glance at Liz, whose face mirrored his own concern. Yet, there was a resolve he saw in her eyes, something that encouraged him. Kyle's arm fell onto the edge of his mother's bed, and he looked lost. It was hard to watch, and Jack wished desperately that he could find words to ease this pain. But nothing seemed adequate. Some battles had to be fought without solace, head-on. Just take some time to think about it, she urged softly, her voice cracking. I love you, both of you. And I just want you to be happy. As silence settled in again, Jack recognized the transition. This wasn't just about healing from injuries, it was about confronting family dynamics twisted by secrets and lies. Kyle exhaled shakily, drawing himself back into the present, flicking his gaze toward Jack. And what about you, Jack? What do you think? Jack felt the weight of Kyle's eyes, seeking validation, searching for the right answer. It was a defining moment for him. He could be the anchor or the wave that pushed them further apart. There's more to every person than their mistakes, Jack finally said, feeling the tension roll off his tongue. Engaging with it might just lead us somewhere unexpected. But as Kyle looked down at his mother, Jack couldn't ignore the feeling that something deeper was still lurking in the shadows ahead. Could healing ever come without a reckoning? Would they be able to move beyond the anger, the disappointment? Before he could dwell too long on it, the silence was cut short by an urgent beeping from the monitor beside Kyle's mother. The nurse rushed in, her expression transitioning from calm to alert. In an instant. What's happening? Jack's heart began to race again. The nurse quickly assessed the situation, her brows furrowing in concern. We need to stabilize her now. All thoughts of secrets faded as panic surged. Kyle looked at Jack with a mix of fear and determination, and in that moment, they understood the battle ahead was bigger than any hidden truth. The fight for their family began not just in voices raised but in healing hearts, and as Jack leaned closer, grasping Kyle's shoulder for support, he realized they were in this together, for better or worse. But what would they discover about themselves in the process? What truths would emerge as they faced the unknown? The nurse's voice cut through the tension, pulling them from the brink of their emotional cliff. Jack felt his heart pound painfully against his chest as he watched the nurse call for help. Shadows danced across the room as more nurses hurried in, their movements swift and practiced. Kyle looked paralyzed, eyes darting between his mother's frail form and the chaos unfolding around him. Mom! Kyle's voice cracked, a desperate plea for reassurance amidst the commotion. He reached out to touch her hand, the warmth of it now a flicker against the cold mountain of fear settling in his stomach. Stay calm, Liz whispered, squeezing Kyle's arm. They're going to help her. The words hung in the air, barely a balm for the anxiety that coiled tightly around them. Jack could see the tremor in Kyle's fingertips as he clung to his mother's hand. The reality of their situation hit hard. They might lose her, juxtaposed against the fragile revelations about their family. Jack's thoughts raced too, grappling with the implications of everything Liz had revealed just moments ago. The chance to reconnect with Kyle's father had seemed monumental, but now, in the face of potential loss, it felt trivial. What mattered was here, now, this moment. The barrage of nurses and doctors swept in like a tidal wave. They took charge with an intensity that pushed Jack, Liz, and Kyle to the sidelines. Jack's instincts kicked and he wanted to be useful, to do something, anything. But the reality was there was nothing he could do except wait. As they hovered in the corner, a tempest of emotions spun around them. Jack fought to maintain a grip on his own fear while also supporting Kyle, trying to be the rock when it felt like everything was crumbling. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Kyle's gaze hadn't wavered from his mom, his breath coming in shallow, uneven gasps. Jack could feel Kyle's tension radiating off him, a thin film of sweat forming on his brow. Why is this happening? Kyle finally blurted, breaking the suffocating silence. This can't be happening. Not now. Jack moved closer, wanting to offer comfort, but words eluded him. His mind lingered on Kyle's question, a question layered with fear and unresolved pain. The vulnerability in Kyle's voice struck a chord deep within. "Life is unfair sometimes," Liz said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. She wrapped her arms around Kyle, who leaned against her. "But we have to believe that we can get through it. Together." Just then, one of the doctors approached, her face serious but gentle. "We're stabilizing her," she said, making eye contact with Kyle. "She's fighting, and we need to keep doing everything we can. The situation is critical, but we have hope." Hope. The word felt like a lifeline. Kyle looked up, uncertainty wrestling with a flicker of faith. "Can we see her?" "You can visit, but only for a few minutes," the doctor replied, maintaining her professional distance while exuding compassion. "She needs rest." Kyle nodded, determination flickering in his eyes. They walked as a unit, Jack beside Liz, steeling themselves as they moved toward Kyle's mother. The sight of her lying there with machines beeping in rhythmic insistence was heart-wrenching. She looked so small, lost in bed surrounded by the starkness of clinical white. But there was still a spirit in her, a flicker of fight that resonated through the very air. Tears brimmed in Kyle's eyes, but he swallowed hard. "I've got you, Mom," he murmured, the words barely a whisper. Jack stepped back, sensing this moment was just for them, a small pocket of raw emotion that felt sacred. He glanced at Liz, whose worried eyes mirrored his own. They shared an unspoken acknowledgement this family was in crisis, but perhaps it was also a chance to confront everything that had been festering beneath the surface. As the doctors adjusted various machines, Kyle leaned closer. "You're not alone in this," he whispered. "We need you. I need you." The moment felt electric, heavy with unspoken truths and unresolved feelings. Jack realized they were standing on the edge of something monumental, not just the brink of a medical emergency, but the threshold of a profound transformation. What would happen when they emerged from this chaos? Would the fear of losing everything push them to confront their past? Jack felt the weight of the question pressing down on him. Suddenly, the sirens outside broke the moment. They had no idea of the world waiting for them beyond these walls. What awaited them when they would step outside? And more importantly, would they be willing to face it together? The sterile scent of antiseptic filled the air, sharp and biting, contrasting with the suffocating emotions swirling within the room. Jack felt its weight pressing down on him as he stood at the edge of their small circle, observing the connection between Kyle and his mother. Their hands seemed to entwine the past and the present, two hearts reaching out through the chaos. Kyle's grip tightened around his mother's fingers. "Please, just come back to us," he murmured, desperation lacing his voice. Each word seemed to echo in Jack's mind, weaving into the fabric of the emotional turmoil that enveloped them. Liz shifted beside Jack, her body tense. "We need to try and find an outlet for this stress. It's not helpful to bottle it all up." Her words hung in the air, yet a swell of uncertainty flickered in her eyes. What outlet could there be in such a time? Kyle turned, briefly breaking eye contact with his mother. "You're right," he said, but his voice was still strained, teetering between hope and despair. "But what do we do?" Jack stepped forward, sensing the urgency. "We focus on her, on what she needs. Let us make sure she knows we're here for her when she wakes up." A knot of fear twisted in Kyle's stomach, a darkness that loomed like a storm cloud. He was terrified of the possibility that lingered in the air, a loss that would shatter their already fragile family. Just then, the doctor re-entered, clipboard in hand, her brow furrowed. "We need to do some tests. It'll take a bit of time, but we'll keep you updated." As she left, an unsettling silence settled over the trio. Jack could hear his own heart thundering in his chest as he looked at the frail figure on the bed. There was so much they still had to navigate, and so much they still avoided discussing. Kyle's phone buzzed in his pocket, jarring him from his thoughts. He pulled it out, glancing at the screen. A message from his sister, perhaps hoping for good news. He hesitated, knowing it wasn't the time to share the bleak probability of their reality. It's not about the messages, Liz said quietly, reading his expression. We need to prioritize what's happening here. Right now. Her voice was low, heavy with understanding. They were all grappling with their own battles, yet here they were, facing the biggest one of all together. Kyle let the phone slip back into his pocket. You're right. I just wish we could do more. His voice wavered, laden with guilt. Jack felt the urge to reassure him, to tell him that their mere presence was enough. Just being here matters, he said, willing the words to instill courage. She needs to see that we care, that she's not alone in this fight. Kyle nodded, his face a tapestry of anguish and determination. The flickering machines beside his mother whispered their consistent rhythm, a fragile heartbeat of hope. Suddenly, Liz's phone chimed, pulling her attention away. She glanced at it, then back at Kyle and Jack, her expression shifting. My mom wants to know if we need anything. Are we okay? Kyle gave a half-hearted smile tinged with frustration. What can she do? It's not like care packages will fix this. Maybe. It's not about fixing, Jack interjected, a thought beginning to shape in his mind. Maybe it's about being proactive. What if we took turns keeping the space filled with love? We could bring in positive memories, stories, good things from the past to share. A flicker of light ignited in Kyle's eyes, and he glanced toward his mother. I never thought of that, he murmured. It could remind her of us, of who she is, why she is fighting. Jack felt a surge of relief. It was small, but it was something they could do together, reclaiming some control over the situation. Let us make a plan. We can gather those memories, make sure she knows how much we love her. Yeah, Kyle agreed, his voice steadier now. We can do that. As they gathered their thoughts, laughter and tears began to emerge, a poignant dance of hope threading through the dark clouds that loomed overhead. With renewed determination, they began to talk, sharing cherished moments that had shaped their family. But as Jack spoke, a sudden thought hit him. Could the connection they were weaving with memories uncover deeper truths? What would happen when they unearthed everything they'd buried in the past? And could the stories they told spark transformations that could change not just their days ahead but their very relationship with each other? As they shared their stories, the atmosphere in the room shifted, becoming almost electric with nostalgia. Jack could see the way Kyle's face lit up when he spoke about a family trip to the beach, where his mother had insisted on building the biggest sandcastle they could manage. She wouldn't give up until we had a moat and everything. Kyle chuckled, his sadness easing just a bit. Liz leaned in. Remember when she painted that awful lighthouse? It was bright pink and everyone thought she had lost her mind. But she loved it like it was the Mona Lisa. Kyle grinned, his heart swelling. And it ended up in the living room like a treasured trophy. Or the time she made us all dress up for Halloween as a family of superheroes. Jack added, unable to suppress a smile. I think I was dressed as the Invisible Man, but in reality, I just wore a bed sheet over my head. They all laughed, the sound echoing warmly against the sterile walls, momentarily soothing the weight on their hearts. For a moment it felt as if they had stepped away from the grief, taking a breath of fresh air, but the joy was tinged with heaviness, reminding them of the thin veil of uncertainty hanging in the air. What if their mother didn't wake up? The thought shadowed their laughter, an unwelcome companion that circled just outside their conversations. Kyle's laughter faded as he caught Jack's eye. We need more stories, more than just the good ones, he said, suddenly serious. She loved us, but do you think she regrets anything? Things left unsaid. Jack considered this, his chest tightening. Maybe digging a little deeper into the past can show her how we've grown. How much we learned from her, even in her mistakes. They spent the next minutes talking about more than just the laughter. They spoke about the tougher moments, the arguments, the misunderstandings. Tears brimmed in Kyle's eyes as he recalled the time he felt abandoned during a crucial high school moment, wanting to be seen and understood but feeling invisible instead. I thought she didn't care, he admitted, his voice a whisper. I never told her how that affected me. Liz placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, the warmth traveling through them like a silent vow. You have to tell her. If she wakes up, those memories could help bridge the gaps. With each revelation, they began to stitch together the fabric of their collective history, their words crafting invisible threads to their mother, a lifeline they hoped would connect her to them in her vulnerable state. As the hours passed, they fell into a comfortable rhythm, sharing everything from favorite recipes to the songs that made them feel alive. Yet, every moment was laced with the looming uncertainty of the unknown. Suddenly, Liz's phone buzzed again, a brief disruption. This time, it was a message from her father, bringing news that felt like a punch in the gut. Are they sure she is stable? It pulled them all back, a harsh reminder of their reality. Kyle's eyes darted to Jack, that familiar knot of fear tightening again. What if we waited too long? What if? Let us not think that way. Jack interrupted, desperately wanting to steer their focus back. We can't know what tomorrow holds. We just need to be here, right now. Kyle nodded, but the doubt still lingered in his eyes. But what if it isn't enough? Jack took a deep breath, searching for the right words. Maybe it's time to embrace the hard stuff too, the struggles and the love. They both matter. As Kyle opened his mouth to respond, the door creaked, drawing their eyes toward the threshold. A nurse stood framed in the doorway, her face uncertain, words coiling in the air, floating like a tightrope they held their breaths on. Can I talk to you? There is something you need to know about your mom. At that moment, Jack's heart raced. What could possibly await them? They had opened the door to the past, but would it lead them to the answers they desperately sought, or would it forge new questions, ones they weren't prepared to answer? The nurse hesitated, glancing back as if summoning courage from a deeper well. The room felt colder, the hum of the overhead lights droning on, amplifying the tension that thickened like fog. Jack's heart raced even faster, uncertainty gnawing at him. Is she? He began, but the nurse raised a hand to pause him. Your mother is stable for now, she said, her voice steady yet gentle. But she is in a delicate state. We need to talk about her condition and make sure you understand. There are options to consider. Options? Kyle echoed, bewildered. The word carried an ominous tone, filling the air with uneasiness. The nurse took a breath, her eyes full of compassion. We're keeping her comfortable. It's our priority right now. But I must emphasize, she might not wake up on her own. It could be time to think about what that means for you all. The words settled heavily. Jack's stomach twisted. He felt Kyle tense beside him. Liz's face paled, and it dawned on them this conversation was veering towards something they never wanted to confront. Are you saying? Liz was struggling, the honest dread spilling into her question. The nurse nodded slowly. Many families see value in saying goodbye in a way that feels right for them. I can help guide you through decisions about how to proceed. Jack could feel his heart pounding loud enough to drown out the nurse's voice. The thought of a goodbye, a decision to let go, made his throat tight. He inhaled deeply, as if hoping to inhale strength along with air. Can we see her? I mean, talk to her. The nurse nodded. You can visit her, it might help soothe you all. Remember, she can hear you, even if she can't respond. All right, Kyle said, the firmness in his voice contrasting with the visible turmoil in his eyes. Let us go. As they followed the nurse down the white hallway, Jack glanced at Kyle. The absence of humor that had previously lit up the room was now replaced with a heavy silence. The echo of their footsteps sounded ominous, footsteps leading them to an unknown finality. When they reached the room, the nurse pushed the door open with a gentle push, revealing their mother lying still, an island of serene beauty amidst an ocean of medical devices. Jack's heart clenched. He stepped inside, Liz and Kyle close behind. Jack leaned closer, searching his mother's face for signs of the woman who had colored their childhood with laughter and love. Her face was delicate, framed by the starkness of the hospital sheets and machines. Air met with a soft beep, marking the rhythm of her life, fragile yet persistent. Hey, Mom, he whispered, his voice catching. It's us. We're here. Kyle stepped up, eyes glistened with unshed tears. We've missed you so much. Liz moved closer, her voice trembling slightly. We've been sharing stories, just like you would have wanted. We love you, so much. As they spoke softly, Jack's heart began unraveling. Memories poured back, a rush of warmth, reality, and sorrow swirled in him. There was so much left unsaid, so much left to share. His mother had always been their anchor, but now, he felt lost, drifting. What if she can't hear us? Kyle murmured, doubt creeping into his voice. Just as Jack was about to respond, a faint stir in their mother's hand, a flicker of motion that held all of their breaths. The monitor beeped rapidly at the change. The moment hung like a delicate crystal, shimmering with possibility. Mom. Jack called, hope igniting through the heavy air. But then, as they watched, her lips parted ever so slightly. A single word escaped her lips, stay. The weight of that word crashed over Jack, sending a tremor through him. What did it mean for them? Jack exchanged glances with Kyle, and Liz, concern and urgency in their eyes. In that moment, the stakes felt higher than ever. They could no longer sit back. Yeah, we'll stay, Jack whispered, yet his mind raced. What was coming next? Would they be ready to face the truth ahead, no matter what it was? The silence wrapped around them, heavy with the promise of revelations. They stood together, every heartbeat filled with love and fear. Wondering what their mother might awaken them to next. Jack felt the weight of those words hanging in the air, pulsing with urgency. Stay. The plea echoed in his mind, intertwining with everything he had come to understand about family, love, and the immense fragility of life. He watched as Kyle leaned closer, his eyes fixing on the woman who had shaped him, the woman who had always been there. Mom, we're right here, Kyle urged, his voice thick with emotion. We're not going anywhere. Liz stepped forward, her eyes transformed with a mix of hope and fear. We love you, and we're all in this together. Just hold on, please. Each word rolled off her tongue like a promise, wrapping them in an invisible cocoon of unity. As they surrounded her bed, their voices like tendrils of warmth weaving through the sterile environment, Jack felt something shift in the room. It wasn't just the flickering machines or the muted buzz of hospital life, it was the human connection, the impossible strength that pulsated beneath their vulnerability. Suddenly, they caught a glimpse of movement from Kyle's mother. Her eyelids fluttered, and Jack's heart raced as he realized that she was fighting to come back to them. Mom! He exclaimed, hope threading through his fear. Stay, she whispered again. Jack leaned in closer, wanting to reach into her consciousness and pull her back from wherever she had traveled. We're together. You're not alone. We need you, he said fiercely, the tremor in his voice echoing the love that surged within him. For a fleeting moment, her hand squeezed Kyle's, a feeble yet profound connection. Kyle, she murmured, the single word heavy with meaning. Jack could see the bond between mother and son rekindling over the chasm of uncertainty they had crawled through. Kyle blinked back tears, the emotion spilling from him unrestrained for the first time. I'm here, Mom. I'm right here. A slow smile crept across her delicate features, followed by a wince. Oh, my boys, she said, her voice weak but steadying, I'm so proud of you. Liz placed her hand on Kyle's shoulder, a gesture of solidarity. You're going to recover, you'll see, she encouraged, her voice a gentle nudge toward the light of hope. Jack relished the moment. The three of them were standing, united against the shadows, talking to the woman they loved more than words could convey. You've always been the heart of this family, Jack added, feeling the truth of it resonate deep within him. Now we're going to be your strength. Promise to tell me everything, all the stories, she slowly breathed, her gaze flitting between them. I want the laughter, we'll share all the memories, Kyle assured, determination fortifying his spirit. You'll be back with us soon, and we'll be a family again. Just then, a nurse stepped in, her face alight with a measure of hope. She's responding beautifully. We can see some progress. Jack felt the flood of relief wash over him, igniting the bonds between them anew. They had harnessed a tapestry woven from their love, ready to hold them through whatever storm came next. As the moments passed, conversations flowed like a gentle river, filled with cherished memories and laughter infused with tears. Jack found himself recounting the story of their family camping trip, where Liz had insisted on cooking a gourmet meal using only a single camping stove. Kyle added his own touch, describing the epic-sized marshmallows that had turned to char, and together they spun a tale that made them all chuckle through their shared fears. With each laugh shared, every story recounted, Jack felt the shadowy threads of the past begin to uncoil, illuminating the way forward. This family has weathered so much, he realized, but together, we find light even in uncertainty. Eventually, Kyle's mother slipped back into a state of quiet rest. Jack and Liz exchanged knowing glances, a silent agreement forged in the hope kindled within them. They remained close, sharing anecdotes and whispering how much they cherished their time together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a gentle glow through the hospital window, Jack realized that this moment was not an ending, it was a new beginning, emerging from the cocoon of fear. They would confront not just the struggles they faced but the deeper truths that bonded them together. They pulled together through the tempest, facing a world of uncertainty. But now, they were armed with the understanding that family love was not merely about the moments free of struggle, it was about weathering storms together, re-emerging with tenderness and resilience. In that hospital room wrapped in the unwavering embrace of love, Jack sensed the winds of change had begun to rise. Transformation was inevitable, it swirled around them like a gentle breeze promising new life, and he knew it was time for more than just survival. It was time to thrive. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the journey. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share, their support means the world.